A desperate call Captain Marcus Kane stood alone in the observation deck of the dying space station Meridian, watching Earth burn below. The alien Vorthic fleet had arrived 3 days ago, their massive ships blotting out the sun. Humanity's defenses had crumbled in hours. Marcus pressed his palm against the cold metal wall, feeling the vibrations of the station's failing life support systems. Around him, the emergency lights flickered red, casting eerie shadows across the empty corridors. Most of the crew had evacuated in the escape pods, but Marcus had stayed behind. Someone had to witness humanity's final moments. "Computer, open emergency broadcast channel," he commanded, his voice hoarse from smoke and exhaustion. A communication array sparked to life, sending his signal across the galaxy. "This is Captain Marcus Kane of the Terran Defense Force. Earth has fallen. Our cities are ash, our fleets destroyed." The Vorthic showed no mercy. He paused, watching another section of New York disappear in brilliant orange flames. "We fought with everything we had, but it wasn't enough." The station shuddered as another Vorthic weapon struck the surface below. Through the viewport, Marcus could see the alien ships hovering like vultures over the smoking remains of civilization. Their crystalline hulls reflected the fires burning across 6 continents. "If anyone receives this message, know that humanity never surrendered. We faced extinction with courage." Marcus gripped the communication console, his knuckles white. "But we're not asking for pity. We're asking for justice. The Vorthic believe they can destroy civilizations without consequence. They're wrong." Deep in space, something was listening. The signal traveled through the cosmic void, past dead stars and empty worlds, until it reached the edge of the Andromeda system. There, an ancient ship drifted in eternal silence, its crew in deep hibernation for 10,000 years. The ship's name was Retribution, and it belonged to the Zephyrians, a race that had once ruled half the galaxy before retreating into isolation. Their technology was beyond anything humanity could imagine, their weapons capable of cracking planets like eggs. Inside the ship's central chamber, Commander Zara Vex awakened from her long sleep. Her pale blue skin shimmered as the hibernation pod opened, releasing clouds of preservation gas. She was tall and elegant, with silver hair that seemed to move like liquid mercury. Her eyes glowed with an inner light that spoke of ancient wisdom and terrible power. Analysis complete, the ship's artificial intelligence reported in crystalline tones. The transmission originates from Sol System. Species classification: human. Status: under attack by Vorthic forces. Zara stepped out of her pod, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. Around her, thousands of other pods began to open as her crew awakened from their millennium-long sleep. Warriors, scientists, and engineers emerged like ghosts from their mechanical tombs. "The Vorthic," she whispered, and her voice carried a note of old hatred, still spreading their poison across the stars. She walked to the command deck, where holographic displays showed Marcus Kane's desperate message playing on repeat. The human's face was streaked with dirt and tears, but his eyes burned with defiance. "Interesting," Zara murmured. "They face annihilation, yet they speak of justice, not survival." The ancient awakening Commander Zara Vex studied the tactical display showing Earth's final battle. The Vorthic had deployed their standard extermination protocol, but something about the human resistance patterns caught her attention. Despite being vastly outgunned, the humans had continued fighting long past any rational hope of victory. Tactical analysis of human combat behavior. She commanded the ship's intelligence. The AI processed terabytes of intercepted battle data. Humans exhibit unprecedented resilience. Standard Vorthic psychological warfare protocols proved ineffective. Human forces continued attacking even when facing certain death. Zara's second-in-command, Lieutenant Cale Stormwind, approached with practiced military precision. His dark skin bore the ceremonial scars of a Zephyrian warrior, and his eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. "Commander, the crew awaits your orders." "Shall we return to hibernation and let this conflict pass, as we have done with countless others?" Zara watched another replay of Marcus Kane's message. The human captain's final words echoed through the bridge. "We're asking for justice." Such a simple concept, yet one that had driven the Zephyrians to abandon their empire centuries ago. "No? Kale, we have slept long enough." She turned to face her awakening crew. The Vorthic believe they can devour civilizations without consequence. Perhaps it's time we reminded them why they once feared to enter Zephyrian space. The bridge erupted in activity as dormant systems came online. Weapon arrays that had remained silent for 1,000 years began charging with energy that could vaporize moons. The ship's engines, powered by captured starlight, hummed with increasing intensity. Navigation: plot a course for the Sol system, maximum speed. Meanwhile, on the dying Meridian station, Marcus Kane continued his broadcast even as the station's hull began to buckle. He had witnessed the last transport ships fleeing Earth, carrying a few thousand survivors to uncertain futures among the stars. "This is day 4 of the invasion," he reported to the Void. "The Vorthic are conducting systematic elimination of all human settlements. They're not just conquering us, they're erasing us. Every monument, every work of art, every trace of human civilization is being methodically destroyed." Below, Marcus could see the aliens' massive harvester ships landing in the ruins of major cities. The Vorthic didn't just kill, they consumed. Their technology could break down matter at the molecular level, transforming entire planets into raw materials for their ever-expanding fleet. "But they've made one mistake," Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger with conviction. "They think we're just another primitive species to be harvested. They don't understand that humanity has something they've never encountered before." He paused, watching a group of human survivors make a final stand in the ruins of London. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but they fought with weapons cobbled together from debris, showing the kind of desperate ingenuity that had carried humanity from caves to the stars. "We have the will to spite death itself." The retribution cut through space like a silver arrow, its advanced drives allowing it to cross the galaxy in hours rather than centuries. As they approached the Sol system, Zara's tactical officer, Chief Navigator Elena Blackthorne, provided updates on the situation. "Commander, we're detecting massive Vorthic fleet concentrations around Earth. Approximately 40,000 ships, of various classes. They've deployed planetary consumption equipment." Zara nodded grimly. The Vorthic were thorough in their destruction, but their very thoroughness would be their weakness. They would never expect a counterattack from an enemy they thought extinct. "What's the status of human resistance?" "Minimal. A few scattered groups on the surface, some evacuation ships fleeing the system. One human appears to be broadcasting from a damaged orbital station." Zara's eyes fixed on the image of Marcus Kane, still transmitting his defiant message even as his station fell apart around him. Here was a being who faced extinction with dignity, who chose to bear witness rather than flee. That human shows remarkable courage for a supposedly primitive species. The ship shuddered slightly as it decelerated from faster-than-light travel. Through the viewports, the crew could see the Sol system ablaze with the fires of war. Earth hung in space like a dying ember, its surface scarred by Vorthic bombardment. "All hands to battle stations," Zara commanded. "Today, we remind the galaxy why the ancient compact must be honored. No species may be exterminated while Zephyrians still draw breath." The tide turns. The first sign that something had changed came when Marcus Kane noticed the stars moving wrong. He had been tracking the positions of Vorthic ships by their engine glows. But suddenly new lights appeared in the void silver streaks. That moved with impossible grace. What the hell? Marcus muttered, adjusting his damaged sensors. The readings made no sense. Ships were appearing out of nowhere, but they weren't Vorthic vessels. These newcomers moved with a fluid elegance that spoke of technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. The lead ship was magnificent, a kilometer-long vessel that seemed to be carved from liquid starlight. Its hull rippled and flowed like mercury, and energy patterns danced across its surface in hypnotic spirals. Behind it came a fleet of similar vessels, each one a masterpiece of engineering that made human starships look like crude toys. Aboard the Retribution, Commander Zara Vex stood on the bridge, watching the Vorthic fleet react to their arrival. The crystalline ships immediately began forming defensive formations, their commanders recognizing the distinctive design of Zephyrian technology. "Open communications to the Vorthic fleet, Commander," Zara ordered. The main screen flickered then, resolved into the image of a creature that looked like it had been assembled from broken glass and malice. General Thorn was a typical Vorthic translucent skin, revealing flowing black blood, eyes like pools of oil, and teeth that could crush diamonds. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. "Impossible. The Zephyrians are extinct. We saw to that personally 10 millennia ago." Zara smiled, and it was a predator's expression. "You saw us withdraw, General. There's a difference. We chose isolation to avoid this conversation, but it seems some lessons need repeating." The Vorthic general's image wavered with what might have been fear. "The ancient compacts are dead, Zephyrian. The galaxy has moved beyond your primitive morality. We harvest resources, nothing more." "Resources?" Zara's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any shout. "These humans have names, General. They have families, dreams, stories. They are not resources to be consumed." On the dying Meridian station, Marcus Kane watched in amazement as the silver ships spread throughout the system like avenging angels. Their movements were so coordinated, they seemed to share a single mind, flowing around Vorthic positions with liquid grace. "This is incredible," he breathed into his communication system. "Unknown ships, this is Captain Marcus Kane of the Terran Defense Force. I don't know who you are, but thank you." Zara's voice came through the static clearly, speaking in perfectly accented English. "Captain Kane, your message was received. I am Commander Zara Vex of the Zephyrian Concordat. Your species has shown remarkable courage in the face of extinction. That courage has earned our intervention." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. For 3 days, he had watched his species die, believing they would be forgotten. Now, impossibly, help had come from the stars. The battle began with the kind of violence that could be seen from neighboring star systems. Zephyrian weapons fired beams of concentrated starlight that cut through Vorthic shields like paper. The enemy's crystalline hulls, which had seemed invulnerable to human weapons, shattered under the onslaught of technology that predated their civilization. But the Vorthic were not helpless. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, and their fleets had been designed for overwhelming force. For every Zephyrian ship, there were hundreds of enemy vessels. The crystalline ships began converging. On the Retribution, like a swarm of angry wasps. "Lieutenant Kale," Zara called to her second-in-command, "deploy the solar lances. Full power." The Retribution's hull opened like a flower, revealing weapons that had been hidden in its depths. Solar lances were Zephyrian superweapons, devices, that could channel the power of entire stars. As they fired, space itself seemed to bend and twist around the beams of pure energy. 3 Vorthic dreadnoughts simply ceased to exist, their matter converted directly to energy in brilliant flashes. That lit up the entire system. The enemy fleet hesitated, their advance faltering as they realized they faced technology beyond their comprehension. "Impossible," General Thorne snarled from his command ship. No weapon can generate that much power. Zara's smile grew wider. General, your species never learned the fundamental lesson of the universe. Technology without wisdom is merely sophisticated barbarism. You have spent millennia perfecting ways to destroy. We spent hours learning to create. The tide of battle was turning, but victory came with a price. Marcus Kane watched from his crippled station as explosions bloomed throughout the system like deadly flowers. Each flash represented the destruction of ships, the death of beings whose only crime was being in the way of forces beyond their understanding. The price of justice, the battle raged for 6 hours, turning the Sol system into a graveyard of shattered ships and burning debris. Marcus Kane watched from the Meridian station as the impossible unfolded before his eyes. The silver Zephyrian vessels moved through space like dancers, their weapons carving geometric patterns of destruction through the Vorthic fleet. But even advanced technology had limits. The Zephyrians were outnumbered 50-1, and despite their superior weapons, they were taking casualties. Marcus watched in horror as a beautiful silver cruiser was swarmed by Vorthic fighters, its hull peeling away under concentrated fire until it exploded in a sphere of blue-white light. "Commander Vex," Marcus called over the communication channel, "you're losing ships trying to save us. We're already dead. Don't let our extinction become yours too." Zara's voice came back steady and calm despite the chaos of battle. "Captain Kane, your species has earned the right to continue existing. That right is not negotiable." On the Retribution's bridge, Lieutenant Cale Stormwind coordinated their fleet's movements with practiced precision. His fingers danced over holographic controls, directing squadrons of fighters and repositioning capital ships to maximize their firepower. But even his tactical genius was being stretched to its limits. "Commander, we've lost 6 ships and the enemy is adapting to our weapons. They're learning to predict our firing patterns." Zara nodded, her pale blue skin now showing stress marks that glowed with inner light. The Zephyrians had not fought a major battle in centuries, and their warrior instincts were rusty despite their technological advantages. Then we stop fighting their battle and start fighting ours. Navigation, plot coordinates for the Vorthic command ship. We're going to end this quickly. The Retribution suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds, its hull rippling as it shifted through dimensions that existed between normal space. The massive ship appeared directly beside General Thorne's flagship, close enough that their shields intersected in cascades of sparks. "Boarding parties, prepare for assault," Zara commanded. "We're taking their command ship." The Zephyrian boarding pods were unlike anything in human military doctrine. Instead of crude projectiles, they were elegant capsules that phased through solid matter, allowing the assault teams to materialize directly inside enemy ships. Within minutes, Zephyrian warriors were fighting hand-to-hand in the corridors of the Vorthic command vessel. Chief Navigator Elena Blackthorne led the first wave, her ceremonial blade humming with energy as she cut through Vorthic defenders. The enemy soldiers were formidable living, weapons bred for war, but they had never faced opponents who fought with both advanced technology and ancient martial arts. "Bridge secured," Elena reported as she stood over General Thorne's fallen form. The Vorthic commander was still alive, his crystalline body cracked but not shattered. "The enemy fleet is in disarray. Their command structure is breaking down." But victory came with devastating news. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Rhine's voice crackled over the communication system with barely controlled emotion. "Commander, we have a problem. The Vorthak were in the final stages of planetary consumption. Earth's biosphere is collapsing. Even if we stop them now, the damage may be irreversible." Marcus Kane's heart sank as he processed the information. Earth was dying not from bombardment, but from the systematic destruction of its environmental systems. The Vorthic harvester ships had been breaking down the planet's atmosphere, converting it into raw materials for their fleet construction. How long? He asked quietly. At current rates of atmospheric loss, perhaps 6 months before total ecosystem collapse. On the Retribution's bridge, Zara Vex stood in silence for long moments, her ancient mind processing possibilities and probabilities. Around her, the crew waited for orders as the last Vorthic ships either fled or surrendered. "There is a way," she said finally, "but it will require a sacrifice that your species may not be willing to make." Marcus leaned forward, desperate for any hope. "Tell me." "Zephyrian technology can restore planetary biospheres, but the process requires genetic templates from the original ecosystem. More importantly, it requires a stable population to maintain the restored environment. Earth can be saved, but not as it was." "What are you saying?" Zara's voice carried the weight of millennia. "Your remaining population numbers approximately 2 million survivors scattered across evacuation ships. Earth could support billions, but rebuilding will take generations. Your children will grow up on a world that looks like Earth, but isn't quite the same. They'll inherit stories of humanity's glory days, but live in the shadow of near extinction." Marcus was quiet for a long time, watching the wounded Earth turn slowly below. Finally, he spoke with the voice of a man who had seen the end of everything, and chosen to hope anyway. "Commander, a broken Earth is still Earth. A changed humanity is still humanity. We'll take whatever future we can build." The new dawned 3 months after the Battle of Sol. Marcus Kane stood in the observation deck of the Retribution, watching the most ambitious terraforming project in galactic history unfold before his eyes. Massive Zephyrian machines orbited Earth, like mechanical moons, each one larger than a human city and powered by technology that seemed more like magic than science. The planetary restoration process was both beautiful and terrifying to witness. Streams of silver energy flowed down from the orbital platforms, touching the scarred surface and bringing it back to life. Where the beams touched, dead soil bloomed with new growth. Poisoned rivers ran clear again. The atmosphere, which had been stripped down to toxic levels, gradually thickened and purified. "It's incredible," Marcus whispered, watching forests appear where there had been nothing but ash and debris. "You're literally bringing our world back from the dead." "Commander." Zara Vex stood beside him, her pale blue skin now bearing new marks of exhaustion. The restoration project was pushing even Zephyrian technology to its limits, requiring constant monitoring and adjustment to ensure the new ecosystem would be stable. "The easy part is restoration," she replied softly. "The difficult part is ensuring it remains balanced. Your original biosphere evolved over millions of years. What we're creating must be sustainable from the moment it begins." Behind them, Chief Navigator Elena Blackthorne approached with the latest population reports. "Commander, the last evacuation ships have returned from the outer colonies. Total human population is now confirmed at 2,137,000 individuals." Marcus felt the weight of those numbers. Before the invasion, Earth alone had supported 8 billion people. Entire cultures, languages, and ways of life had been erased in the span of a few days. The survivors represented perhaps 1 in 4,000 of humanity's original population. "The settlement teams are ready to begin recodify," Elena continued. "But they'll need guidance on integrating with the new ecosystem. The restored environment will be stable, but it won't behave exactly like the original." Zara nodded thoughtfully. "We'll establish training protocols. Humans will need to learn new ways of living in harmony with their rebuilt world. The old patterns of consumption and waste cannot be repeated." Lieutenant Kale Stormwind joined them, carrying a datapad filled with technical specifications. "Commander, We've received the final psychological evaluations of the human population. The trauma counselors report that 93% show signs of severe survival syndrome, but they also display remarkable adaptive capacity. Marcus laughed, though there was little humor in it. Adaptive capacity. That's one way to put it. We're all that's left of our species, and we're about to resettle a world that looks like home, but isn't really home anymore. Perhaps, Zara said, turning to face him directly, this is an opportunity for humanity to become something greater than what it was. Through the viewport, they could see the first human settlement ships beginning their descent to Earth's surface. These were not the desperate evacuation craft that had fled the Vorthic invasion, but purpose-built colony vessels designed by Zephyrian engineers and human architects working together. The settlements themselves were marvels of integrated technology structures that seemed to grow from the Earth itself, powered by clean fusion reactors and designed to work in harmony with the restored ecosystem. They could support millions of people while maintaining perfect environmental balance. The first settlement will be established where New York once stood, Elena reported. The population has voted to call it New Hope. Marcus smiled at that. Even facing the complete transformation of their world, humans insisted on hope. It was perhaps the most human response possible to an impossible situation. Commander Vex, he said formally, I want to thank you again for what your people have done. You didn't have to intervene. You could have let us die and continued your peaceful isolation. Zara's expression grew distant, her glowing eyes focused on something beyond the present moment. Captain Kane, 10,000 years ago, my people made a choice to withdraw from galactic affairs. We had grown tired of endless wars, endless conflicts between species that couldn't learn to coexist. We thought isolation would bring us peace. She paused, watching a flock of genetically reconstructed birds take flight over the restored continents. But peace without purpose is just a comfortable death. Your species reminded us that some things are worth fighting for. Justice, courage, the right of all thinking beings to exist and grow. The communication system chimed with an incoming message. From the surface, a young human voice, full of excitement and wonder, came through the speakers. Retribution. This is colony leader Sarah Chun, calling for New Hope settlement. We've successfully established our first permanent structure. The soil is fertile. The air is clean, and we can see the ocean from our main hab dome. Thank you for giving us our world back. Marcus felt tears on his cheeks as he listened to the first human voice speaking from the restored Earth. It was a small moment, but it represented something immense, the continuation of a species that had come within hours of extinction. So, what happens now? He asked Zara. Do you return to isolation? Leave us to figure out the rest on our own? Zara smiled, and for the first time since Marcus had known her, it was a smile of pure joy rather than ancient sadness. No, Captain. My people have decided to remain active in galactic affairs. There are other species facing extinction, other civilizations that need protection from forces like the Vorthic. She gestured to the restored Earth, where millions of humans were beginning new lives in a reborn world. Besides, we're curious to see what humanity becomes now that it has been given a second chance. Your species has already shown remarkable resilience. What will you accomplish with a clean slate and hard-won wisdom? As Marcus watched the first children being born in the new settlements, he realized that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They had survived extinction, been given a second world, and now faced the challenge of building a better civilization than the one they had lost. The galaxy would never be the same. And perhaps Marcus thought with growing confidence, that was exactly as it should be.